The throne room of the Zephyrian Palace had never seen anything like the confrontation that was about to unfold. King Valorian sat on his massive stone throne, his forearms crossed and his purple face twisted with rage. Behind him stood his most loyal guards, their weapons ready. In front of him, Princess Lyra walked with confident steps beside Captain Jake Morrison, no longer needing anyone to guide her through the familiar space of her childhood home. The throne room was packed with nobles, advisors, and military officers who had come to witness what many expected to be an execution. But as Lyra entered the chamber, many gasped in surprise. The frightened, submissive girl who had been handed over to the humans months ago was gone. In her place stood a woman who moved with purpose and held her head high with pride. "So, King," Valorian said in a voice that echoed off the stone walls, "my worthless daughter returns, contaminated by alien ideas and carrying a mongrel child in her belly." Lyra stopped directly in front of the throne and looked up at her father with sightless eyes that somehow seemed to see right through him. "Hello, father. You look tired. The plague must be affecting you more than you want to admit." Gasps echoed through the throne room. No one had ever spoken to the king with such casual boldness, especially not the daughter he considered his greatest shame. "Silence," Valorian roared, rising from his throne. "You will show proper respect to your king and father." "I'll show respect when you've earned it," Lyra replied calmly. "Throwing away your own child because she's different isn't worthy of respect. It's worthy of pity." Jake stepped forward, his hand moving instinctively toward his weapon as he saw the murderous look on the king's face. "Your Majesty, Princess Lyra carries the cure that can save your entire empire." "Perhaps we should discuss that instead of old grievances." "There is no cure that depends on this defective girl," Valorian snarled. "My scientists have worked for years without success. Human medicine is inferior to ours in every way." Dr. Maya Rodriguez entered the throne room, carrying medical equipment and data tablets. "Your Majesty, I have proof that Princess Lyra's genetic condition makes her immune to the plague. We've already synthesized a working cure from her blood samples." "Lies and alien trickery," the king dismissed. "Even if such a thing were possible, I would rather see our empire fall than depend on the twisted genetics of my broken daughter." "Prince." Darius struggled into the throne room, supported by two servants. The plague had weakened him terribly, but his eyes were still sharp with intelligence. "Father, you're being a fool." "Sister, is it true that you carry the cure in your blood?" Lyra turned toward her brother's voice with genuine warmth. "Yes, Darius. The same genes that cause my blindness also make me immune to the plague. Dr. Rodriguez can cure you and everyone else who's infected." "Then why are we wasting time with father's pride?" Darius asked weakly. "Our people are dying while he argues about genetic purity." King Valorian's face grew even darker. "You would side with this contaminated girl against your own father and king?" "I side with survival over stupidity," Darius replied, shocking everyone in the room with his boldness. "If Lyra can save our people, then she's worth more than all of us combined." General Marcus Stone stepped forward from the crowd of nobles. He was an older military leader who had always been pragmatic rather than blindly traditional. "Your Majesty, perhaps we should test this cure before making any decisions. If it works, we can discuss other matters later." "There will be no testing of alien medicine on Zephyrian citizens," Valorian declared. "And there will be no mongrel children polluting the royal bloodline." He gestured to his guards. "Arrest the humans and prepare my daughter for medical procedures to remove the abomination she carries." Jake drew his weapon faster than any of the Zephyrians expected, placing himself between Lyra and the approaching guards. "No one touches her or our child. You dare threaten the king in his own throne room?" Valorian roared. "I dare protect the woman I love from anyone who tries to harm her." "Including her own father?" Jake replied firmly. The tension in the room reached a breaking point as guards raised their weapons and nobles began backing away from potential violence. But before anyone could act, Prince Darius collapsed completely, his weakened body finally giving out from the plague's effects. "Darius!" Lyra cried out, rushing to her brother's side despite the danger around her. Dr. Rodriguez immediately began checking the prince's vital signs. "He's going into organ failure. Without treatment, he'll be dead within hours." King Valorian looked down at his dying son, the heir to his empire, and for the first time his expression showed uncertainty. "Can you save him?" "Yes," Maya replied. "But only with the cure synthesized from Princess Lyra's blood, and I'll need to administer it immediately." The king stared at his unconscious son, then at his daughter kneeling beside Darius with tears in her eyes. The choice was simple but devastating to his pride. Let his son die to maintain his beliefs, or accept that his worthless daughter was actually the salvation of his empire. "Save him," Valorian said quietly. Maya quickly prepared an injection of the cure and administered it to Prince Darius. Within minutes, his breathing became easier and his color began to improve. The nobles in the throne room watched in amazement as the dying prince showed clear signs of recovery. "Impossible," whispered Advisor Kent. "The human cure actually works." General Marcus Stone looked at King Valorian with new understanding. "Your Majesty, if Princess Lyra can cure the prince, she can cure all of us. She's not worthless. She's the most valuable person in the empire." King Valorian's world was crumbling around him. Everything he had believed about strength, perfection, and genetic purity was being proven wrong by his blind daughter's success. He looked at Lyra, who was still kneeling beside her recovering brother, and saw not weakness but incredible strength. "Father," Lyra said softly, "I don't need your approval anymore. I know my own worth. But our people need this cure, and I won't let them die because of your pride." The king sat back down on his throne heavily, looking older than his years. "You would save the people who allowed me to throw you away. I would save innocent people who are dying from a plague they didn't create," Lyra replied. "What you did, to me, was wrong, but that doesn't mean I should let others suffer." Prince Darius opened his eyes and looked around the throne room with growing strength. "Father, sister saved my life. She saved all our lives. How can you still call her worthless?" King Valorian stared at his daughter for a long moment, seeing her clearly for perhaps the first time in her life. She was no longer the frightened child he remembered, but a confident woman who had accomplished something none of his perfect warriors could do. "General Stone," the king said slowly, "begin immediate distribution of the cure to all affected citizens. Use whatever resources are necessary." "Yes, Your Majesty," Stone replied with obvious relief. Jake helped Lyra stand and put his arm around her protectively. "What about us? What about our child?" King Valorian looked at the human captain with grudging respect. "You've cared for my daughter better than I did. You've helped her become someone worthy of admiration rather than pity." He paused, the words clearly difficult for him. "The child you carry together may be the future of both our species. I was wrong to call it an abomination." Lyra stepped forward and spoke with quiet dignity. "Father, I forgive you for throwing me away, but I won't forget the lesson it taught me, that a person's worth isn't determined by what others think of them." Over the following months, the cure was distributed throughout the Zephyrian Empire, saving millions of lives. Prince Darius, fully recovered and humbled by his near-death experience, began working to change Zephyrian society's treatment of disabled citizens. General Stone helped establish new policies that valued different kinds of contributions rather than just military strength. King Valorian never fully recovered from the shame of nearly destroying his empire through prejudice. But he lived long enough to see his first grandchild born, a healthy baby girl with her mother's gentle spirit and her father's curiosity about the world. Lyra became an ambassador between humans and Zephyrians, teaching both species about the value of inclusion and diversity. She established schools where disabled Zephyrian children could learn to see their differences as strengths rather than shameful secrets. Jake remained by her side as they raised their daughter in a world that was slowly learning to celebrate differences rather than hide them. Their child grew up knowing that her mixed heritage made her special. Not strange. The palace corridors that had once echoed with Lyra's lonely footsteps now rang with the laughter of children who were taught that everyone had value, regardless of their abilities or differences. The empire that had almost fallen due to its own narrow-mindedness became stronger through embracing the diversity it had once rejected. And in the royal library where Lyra had once hidden from the world, new books were written about the blind. Princess who saved her people not despite her disability, but because of the unique strengths it gave her. The story became a legend that reminded future generations that sometimes the people a society throws away are exactly the ones it needs most. The bonding process began with sensations that Jake Morrison had never experienced in his life. He felt Princess Zarlin's consciousness touching the edges of his mind like gentle waves lapping at a shore. At first, the contact was light and cautious, but gradually it deepened until he could sense her thoughts flowing into his awareness, like water filling an empty container through their growing connection. Jake experienced memories that spanned thousands of years. He saw the ethereal dominion's expansion across 3 galaxies, witnessed their peaceful encounters with countless species, and felt the genuine joy that Princess Zarlin's people experience when bringing new civilizations into their collective consciousness. What struck him most was their complete sincerity in believing they were offering the greatest gift possible. Princess Zarlin, meanwhile, was experiencing human consciousness for the first time in ways that shocked her to her very core. Jake's mind did not flow in the smooth, harmonious pattern she expected from intelligent beings. Instead, his thoughts crashed together in chaotic waves of emotion, memory, and instinct that seemed to follow no logical structure whatsoever. "This is overwhelming," Princess Zarlin gasped, her physical form trembling as conflicting human emotions flooded through her awareness. "How do you function with such intensity of feeling?" "Your mind contains joy and sorrow existing simultaneously. Hope and fear intertwined so closely they cannot be separated." Jake felt her confusion and tried to help her understand through their mental connection. He shared memories of difficult decisions he had made as a starship captain, showing her how human emotions could provide guidance when logic alone was insufficient. He let her experience the fierce protective love he felt for his crew and the 2,000 colonists under his care. Through their bond, Princess Zarlin began to understand that human emotions were not chaotic disturbances but sophisticated information processing systems. Fear warned of danger. Love motivated protection and sacrifice. Anger provided energy to fight against injustice, and hope drove humans to attempt impossible things. "Your species has weaponized uncertainty," Princess Zarlin observed with growing amazement. "Where we seek to eliminate doubt and confusion, humans use these uncomfortable states to generate creativity and innovation. You deliberately preserve problems that could be solved because the struggle itself produces unexpected solutions." Jake experienced her perspective on human behavior and realized how strange humanity must appear to a collective consciousness. Through Princess Zarlin's eyes, he saw human history as an endless series of conflicts, competitions, and challenges that his species created for themselves when they could have chosen peace and unity instead. But he also felt her growing fascination with concepts that had no equivalent in ethereal consciousness. She experienced loneliness for the first time and discovered that the pain of isolation could drive beings to create art, music, and literature that spoke to others across vast distances of space and time. She felt the pride of individual achievement and understood why humans would rather struggle alone than succeed as part of a collective. The bonding process had been continuing for 3 hours when alarms began sounding throughout Princess Zarlin's vessel. Jake felt her sudden spike of fear through their connection as she recognized the signatures of approaching ethereal ships. "They have come for me," Princess Zarlin said aloud, her voice carrying tones of worry that would have been impossible before experiencing human emotions. "High Consul Mordoon and the Dominion Council have detected my separation from the collective consciousness. Through their mental link, Jake saw the approaching vessels through Princess Zarlin's enhanced senses. 3 massive ethereal ships materialized near their position, each one dwarfing both the horizon's edge and Princess Zarlin's vessel. The ships pulsed with the same crystalline beauty as the princess herself, but their size and power made them appear more threatening than graceful. Lisa Grant's voice crackled through the communication system that Dr. Carter had established between the ships. "Captain, we're detecting 3 large alien vessels that just appeared near our position. Our sensors show they're scanning both your location and our ship." Jake tried to respond, but the bonding process made it difficult to focus on external communication. Princess Zarlin helped him by amplifying his thoughts through their shared connection. "I'm safe for now, Lisa," Jake managed to say. "These are other members of Princess Zarlin's people. Monitor the situation, but do not take any aggressive action unless they threaten our colonists." High Consul Mordum materialized in the bonding chamber without warning, his form more traditionally ethereal than Princess Zarlin's current appearance. He consisted mostly of flowing energy patterns barely contained within a semi-physical shell, and his presence filled the room with harmonious tones that seemed to resonate in perfect mathematical frequencies. "Princess Zarlin," Mordum said, his voice carrying the authority of millions of years of collective wisdom, "you have violated every principle of our existence by separating yourself from the unity of our consciousness. This human's chaotic. Mental patterns have contaminated your perfect clarity." Through their bond, Jake felt Princess Zarlin's response before she spoke it aloud. She was no longer the same being who had first appeared on his bridge. The experience of human consciousness had changed her in fundamental ways that could not be undone. "High Consul," Princess Zarlin replied, her voice now carrying emotional undertones that would have been impossible before her bonding with Jake. "What you call contamination, I call enlightenment. This human's chaotic thinking is not primitive, but sophisticated beyond our understanding. His mind generates solutions to problems by preserving contradictions that our collective consciousness automatically resolves." Mordun's energy patterns shifted in what Jake recognized as disapproval and concern. "Princess, you speak of preserving problems as if struggle and suffering were desirable states. The purpose of consciousness is to achieve perfect harmony and eliminate all sources of pain and uncertainty." Jake found the strength to speak directly to the High Consul, though the effort required Princess Zarlin's help to focus his thoughts. "High Consul Mordum, with respect, your perfect harmony eliminates everything that makes consciousness valuable in the first place. Without struggle, there can be no growth. Without uncertainty, there can be no discovery. Without individual choice, there can be no love." The High Consul's form became more solid as he focused his attention on Jake, studying the human with intense curiosity. "Human, you speak of love as if it were a positive force. Yet our observations show that love causes more suffering than any other emotion your species experiences. How can pain be preferable to peace?" Princess Zarlin answered before Jake could respond, her forearms moving in gestures that combined ethereal grace with newly learned human expressiveness. "Because love motivates actions that pure logic would never attempt, High Consul. Through my bond with Captain Morrison, I have experienced his willingness to sacrifice himself for beings who are not even related to him genetically. His crew follows him not because they must, but because they choose to. This voluntary cooperation creates possibilities that forced unity cannot generate." 2 more ethereal beings materialized in the chamber, and Jake felt Princess Zarlin's recognition of them as senior members of the Dominion Council. Their combined presence created harmonious resonances that should have been beautiful, but Jake found them oddly sterile compared to the chaotic vitality of human consciousness. "The contamination has progressed further than we fear," one of the council members observed, studying Princess Zarlin with what might have been sadness. "She now defends individual consciousness as if separation were preferable to unity." "It is not contamination," Princess Zarlin insisted. her skin color shifting rapidly through patterns that Jake now recognized as emotional responses learned from their bonding. It is expansion of understanding. Through connection with human consciousness, I have discovered forms of awareness that our collective has never imagined. High Council Mordoon-S energy patterns began to pulse in preparation for some kind of action. Princess Zarlin, you will submit to corrective unity immediately. We will cleanse the chaotic human influences from your consciousness and restore your proper connection to the collective. Jake felt Princess Zarlin's fierce rejection of this demand flow through their mental bond. She had tasted individual consciousness and would not willingly return to the sterile perfection of collective unity. I refuse, Princess Zarlin declared, her voice ringing with newfound human determination. Captain Morrison and I will complete our bonding process and demonstrate that individual consciousness can achieve things your collective never could. Confrontation that Jake had hoped to avoid was now inevitable, and he realized that the future of both their species might depend on the outcome of the next few minutes. Jake Morrison stared at Princess Zarlin for a long moment, trying to process her incredible request. The alien princess wanted to separate herself from her collective consciousness and bond exclusively with him, something that had apparently never been attempted in the millions of years of ethereal dominion history. The weight of such a decision pressed down on his shoulders like a physical force. Princess, Jake said carefully, I need to understand exactly what this bonding process would involve. What are the risks to both of us? Princess Zarlin's skin colors shifted to deeper shades of blue and purple, which Jake was beginning to recognize as signs of serious thought. The risks are significant, Captain Morrison. For me, separation from the collective consciousness means losing access to the combined knowledge and wisdom of billions of minds. I will experience isolation, uncertainty, and emotional turbulence for the first time in my existence. For you, the process of joining consciousness with an alien mind could cause permanent changes to your neural patterns. Lisa Grant turned from her communications console with obvious concern. Captain, we have no idea what this could do to your brain. We don't have any medical data on human-alien consciousness bonding. Ryan Blake nodded in agreement from his engineering station. Princess, with respect, your technology is so far beyond ours that we can't even evaluate the safety of what you're proposing. How do we know this bonding process won't harm our captain permanently? Princess Zarlin moved gracefully toward the main view screen, her forearms gesturing as she spoke. Your concerns are valid and demonstrate the careful thinking that makes humans so interesting. The ancient bonding technology has not been used for over 50,000 of your years, precisely because no species has ever required individual consciousness joining, rather than collective integration. Amanda Torres stepped forward from her security station, her military bearing evident in her stance. Captain, I have to advise against this course of action. We're responsible for 2,000 colonists, and we can't risk losing our commanding officer to an untested alien procedure. Jake appreciated his crew's concern, but he could see the bigger picture beyond their immediate mission. This could be humanity's only chance to truly understand the ethereal dominion and what they represent for our species. If Princess Zarlin is willing to risk separation from her collective, then perhaps I should be willing to take the same kind of risk. Princess Zarlin turned back toward Jake, her galaxy eyes swirling with what might have been admiration. Your willingness to face unknown dangers for the greater good of your people is exactly the quality that fascinates me about humans, Captain. Most species would never consider such a sacrifice. Lisa looked between Jake and the alien princess with growing worry. What happens if the bonding fails? What happens if it succeeds, but you can't reverse it? If the process fails completely, both Captain Morrison and I would likely suffer severe neural damage. Princess Zarlin admitted with surprising honesty. If it succeeds but cannot be reversed, we would remain permanently connected, sharing thoughts and experiences for the remainder of our lives. Ryan Blake ran his hands through his hair, a gesture Jake recognized as his chief engineer's way of dealing with impossible technical problems. Princess, can you at least explain the bonding technology so our medical officer can monitor the captain's vital signs? Princess Zarlin nodded approvingly. Dr. Paul Carter should indeed monitor the process. The bonding chamber aboard my vessel uses crystalline matrices that resonate with neural frequencies, creating a bridge between consciousness patterns. Biomechanical interfaces adapt to different species' physiology, allowing the sharing of thoughts and memories. Jake made his decision with the same decisive clarity that had made him a successful starship captain. I'll do it. The potential benefits to humanity outweigh the personal risks. But I want Dr. Carter monitoring everything, and I want a communication link maintained with my ship at all times. Amanda Torres shook her head firmly. Captain, I can't allow you to transport to an alien vessel alone. I should accompany you as security backup. Princess Zarlin's skin colors brightened noticeably. I appreciate Security Chief Torres' dedication. But the bonding chamber can accommodate only 2 consciousness patterns. Additional minds present during the process could cause dangerous interference. Lisa Grant stood up from her station, her face showing the strain of the situation. How long will this bonding attempt take, Princess? The initial connection phase requires approximately 1 of your hours, Princess Zarlin explained. If successful, the full bonding process could take several more hours to complete safely. Captain Morrison will need to remain aboard my vessel during this entire period. Jake looked around at his senior staff and saw his own determination reflected in their faces despite their concerns. These people had followed him through dangerous situations before, and he knew they would support his decision even if they disagreed with it. Dr. Carter to the bridge immediately, Jake said, activating the ship's internal communication system. Within minutes, the chief medical officer arrived, carrying his portable medical scanner and looking curious about the urgent summons. Dr. Paul. Carter stopped short when he saw Princess Zarlin, his eyes widening at his first sight of an alien being. After a moment of stunned silence, he recovered his professional composure and approached Jake with his medical scanner ready. Captain, I'm going to need a full medical baseline before you even consider whatever you're planning, Dr. Carter said, running his scanner over Jake's head and chest. Your neural activity, heart rate, blood pressure, and brain chemistry all need to be documented. Princess Zarlin watched the medical procedure with obvious interest. Dr. Carter, you're monitoring. Equipment will be welcome aboard my vessel. I can provide interfaces that will allow your instruments to function within our technology. Dr. Carter looked up from his scanner readings with a mixture of fascination and concern. Princess, I have to tell you that human physiology is probably very different from anything you've encountered before. Our neural patterns, brain chemistry, and consciousness structure may not be compatible with your bonding technology. That incompatibility is precisely what makes this experiment so valuable, Princess Zarlin replied. Human minds resist collective integration, which suggests you process consciousness in ways we do not understand. By bonding individually. With Captain Morrison, I hope to learn what makes human awareness so uniquely chaotic and creative. Jake submitted to Dr. Carter's thorough medical examination while his crew prepared for the unprecedented experiment. Lisa Grant established secure communication protocols with Princess Zarlin's vessel. Ryan Blake configured emergency transportation procedures, and Amanda Torres prepared contingency plans for every possible scenario she could imagine. Medical baseline complete, Captain, Dr. Carter announced. I have to say, this is probably the most dangerous medical procedure ever attempted by a human being, but your current health indicators are excellent. Princess Zarlin moved toward the center of the bridge, her crystalline crown beginning to pulse with brighter light. Captain Morrison, are you prepared to accompany me to the bonding chamber? Jake took a deep breath and looked around the bridge one more time, seeing the faces of people who had become more than just crew members over their years together. I'm ready, Princess. Let's make history. The alien princess raised all 4 of her arms, and the air around Jake began to shimmer with the same sparkling lights that announced her arrival. He felt a strange tingling sensation spreading through his body as the transportation process began to take effect. Maintain constant communication, Jake called out to his crew as the sparkles of light grew brighter around him. If anything goes wrong, do whatever it takes to get me back. Lisa Grant's voice was the last thing he heard from the horizon's edge before the transportation effect completed. We'll be monitoring everything, Captain. Stay safe. The sensation of being dissolved into light and energy lasted only seconds. But Jake felt as if he experienced every molecule of his body being taken apart and reassembled elsewhere. When the sparkles faded, he found himself standing in a chamber that looked like nothing human technology could have created. The bonding chamber resembled a fusion of organic growth and impossible technology. Crystalline formations pulsed with inner light while biomechanical interfaces shifted and adapted as they sensed his presence. The walls seemed to be alive, breathing gently as complex patterns of energy flowed through translucent surfaces. Princess Zarlin materialized beside him, her skin colors now shifting rapidly through the entire spectrum. Welcome to the consciousness. Bonding chamber. Captain Morrison, are you prepared to begin an experiment that will change both of our species forever? The air on the bridge of the horizon's edge began to shimmer like heat waves rising from hot pavement. Jake Morrison watched in amazement as sparkles of light gathered together in the center of the bridge, slowly taking the shape of something that definitely was not human. The sparkles grew brighter and more solid until Princess Zarlin stood before them in all her alien MAGNIFICE. Thought Jake had tried to imagine what the alien princess might look like, but his human mind had not been prepared for the reality of her presence. She stood 7 feet tall with skin that shifted through colors like oil on water, flowing from deep blue to silver to purple and back again. Her 4 arms moved with graceful precision, each hand containing 6 fingers that seemed to bend in ways human joints could not. Most striking were her eyes, which looked like tiny galaxies filled with swirling stars and nebulae. Princess Zarlin wore flowing robes that seemed to be made of the same shifting material as her skin, and a crown of crystalline formations that pulsed with inner light. When she spoke, her voice filled the bridge with harmonious tones that seemed to come from multiple sources at once. Captain Morrison, she said, inclining her head in what appeared to be a respectful bow. I thank you for allowing me aboard your vessel. Your crew displays admirable discipline in the face of the unknown. Jake glanced around the bridge and realized his senior staff were indeed showing remarkable composure. Lisa Grant continued monitoring her communications equipment while stealing quick glances at the alien princess. Ryan Blake had his hands ready, near the emergency controls, but maintained his professional demeanor. Amanda Torres kept her position at the security station, alert but not threatening. We welcome you aboard the Horizon's Edge, Princess Zarlin, Jake replied, hoping his voice sounded steadier than he felt. We are honored by your visit, though we must admit we are curious about your intentions. The alien princess moved closer to the main view screen, her 4 arms gesturing elegantly as she spoke. Your curiosity is one of the traits that makes your species so fascinating, Captain. We of the Ethereal Dominion have traveled among the stars for millions of your years, encountering countless civilizations across 3 galaxies. In all that time, we have never met beings quite like humans. Lisa looked up from her console with obvious interest. How long have you been observing us, Princess? Princess Zarlin turned toward the communications officer with what might have been a smile, though her alien features made it difficult to tell. We began monitoring your world shortly after you achieved nuclear capability. Your rapid technological advancement caught our attention, but it was your behavior during conflicts that truly intrigued us. Most species fight for territory, resources, or dominance. Humans fight for concepts that have no physical form. Ryan Blake could not contain his engineering curiosity any longer. Your transportation technology is incredible, Princess. How did you materialize on our bridge like that? Matter conversion and reformation through quantum manipulation, Princess Zarlin explained, though her simplified answer still sounded impossibly advanced to human ears. It is one of many technologies we have developed during our long expansion across the cosmos. We freely share such knowledge with species who join our collective. Jake felt a chill run down his spine at those last words. Join your collective? What exactly does that mean? Princess Zarlin moved to the center of the bridge, her galaxy eyes focusing intently on Jake. The ethereal dominion operates through what we call harmonic unity. Individual minds join together in symbiotic bonds that create exponentially greater intelligence and capability. When beings unite with us, they transcend the limitations of single consciousness and become part of something magnificent and eternal. Amanda Torres shifted uncomfortably at her station. What happens to individual identity when minds join together like that? Individual identity becomes part of the greater whole, Princess Zarlin replied, her musical voice carrying complete conviction. Personal desires and fears dissolve in the collective wisdom. Loneliness becomes impossible when thousands of minds share thoughts and experiences. Death loses its terror when consciousness continues within the unity of all. The bridge fell silent as the humans absorbed the implications of what they were hearing. Jake realized they were not just dealing with first contact, but with a fundamental challenge to everything that made them human. Lisa spoke first, her voice careful and measured. Princess, you said that every species you have encountered has joined your collective. What about those who prefer to remain independent? Princess Zarlin's shifting skin colors seemed to pause for a moment, settling into a deep blue that might have indicated surprise. In all our millions of years of expansion, we have never encountered a species that refused unity once they understood its benefits. The joining process is peaceful and voluntary. Beings choose unity because they recognize its superiority to individual existence. Ryan Blake leaned forward in his chair. But what if a species valued individual thought and independence more than collective knowledge? Such a choice would be incomprehensible, Princess Zarlin admitted, her four hands moving in complex patterns as she considered the question. Why would any intelligent being choose the limitations and suffering of individual consciousness over the perfection of unified existence? Jake began to understand the true nature of their situation. The ethereal dominion was not malevolent or aggressive, but they represented something that could be equally dangerous to humanity. They offered a form of paradise that would eliminate everything that made humans distinctly human. Princess Zarlin, Jake said carefully, what if I told you that many humans would consider individual consciousness and free choice to be more valuable than perfect unity? The alien princess stared at him with her galaxy eyes, and Jake could see genuine confusion in their swirling depths. Captain Morrison, I do not understand how suffering and limitation could be considered preferable to peace and transcendence. Perhaps you could explain this strange human perspective. Amanda Torres stood up from her station, her military training evident in her posture. Princess, with respect, what you call limitations and suffering, we call freedom and growth. The struggle of individual existence is what drives us to create, to love, to become better than we were before. Princess Zarlin moved closer to Amanda, studying her with intense curiosity. Your emotional responses are indeed unlike anything we have encountered. You display what appears to be pride in your individual nature, even though it causes you pain and uncertainty. Lisa joined the conversation from her communication station. Princess, in your collective consciousness, does anyone ever disagree with decisions or want to try something different just to see what happens? Disagreement is impossible within perfect unity, Princess Zarlin replied. All minds share the same knowledge and wisdom, so all reach the same optimal conclusions. As for experimentation without purpose, such behavior would be inefficient and potentially harmful to the collective good. Jake saw his crew exchanging glances and realized they were all thinking the same thing. The ethereal dominion had achieved a form of perfection, but it was a perfection that eliminated everything humans valued about consciousness and life itself. Princess, Jake said, I need to ask you directly. Are you here to invite humanity to join your collective? Princess Zarlin nodded, her crystalline crown pulsing with brighter light. That was my original purpose, Captain Morrison. However, our preliminary observations of human neural patterns have revealed an unexpected complication. Your brain. Chemistry appears to actively resist the standard joining process. Ryan Blake sat up straighter. What kind of resistance? Where other species experience peaceful integration during the unity process, human minds generate what can only be described as violent rejection responses. Princess Zarlin explained, her skin color shifting more rapidly as she spoke. Your individual consciousness fights against collective harmony with remarkable intensity. Jake felt a mixture of relief and concern at this news. So humans cannot be forced into your collective? The process must be voluntary to succeed. Princess Zarlin confirmed. But more importantly, Captain Morrison, your species' resistance to unity has made me curious about something I have never experienced before. I wish to understand what makes individual consciousness so appealing to humans that they would fight to preserve it even against perfection itself. The alien princess moved to stand directly in front of Jake, her four arms spread wide in what seemed to be a gesture of openness and sincerity. Captain Morrison, she said, her musical voice carrying new tones of excitement and determination, I wish to make an unprecedented proposal. Instead of you joining our collective consciousness, I request permission to temporarily separate myself from the ethereal dominion and attempt an exclusive individual bond with you. Please become one with me, human, so that I might experience what you call individual existence and understand why your species values it above all else. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, watching the stars drift by through the main view screen. His ship carried 2,000 colonists toward their new home in the Kepler 442 system. They had been traveling for 8 months now and still had 4 more months before reaching their destination. Jake ran his hand through his brown hair and checked the time display. Another routine day in deep space was about to begin. The ship hung quietly around him as the night shift prepared to hand over control to the day crew. Communications Officer Lisa Grant arrived first, carrying her usual cup of coffee and looking ready to tackle another day of monitoring empty space frequencies. Chief Engineer Ryan Blake followed, already checking his tablet for overnight system reports. Security Chief Amanda Torres walked onto the bridge with her usual confident stride, nodding to Jake before taking her station. Jake had commanded the Horizon's Edge for 3 years now, but this mission was different from all the others. They were not just exploring or mapping new systems. They were carrying families, children, scientists, and engineers who would build humanity's first permanent colony beyond the solar system. The weight of that responsibility never left his shoulders. Lisa settled into her communication station and began her morning routine checks. All frequencies clear, Captain, she reported. No unusual signals or transmissions detected during the night shift. This was the same report she gave every morning, but Jake always listened carefully. In deep space, the first sign of trouble often came through the communications array. Ryan Blake looked up from his engineering console. All systems running within normal parameters, Captain. The fusion reactors are performing perfectly. Life support is stable, and the artificial gravity generators are showing no stress indicators. The big man took pride in keeping the ship running smoothly. He had been Jake's chief engineer for 2 years and had never let him down. Amanda Torres completed her security briefing with typical efficiency. All security checkpoints report normal status. The colonist sections are quiet, and all restricted areas remain secure. She was a former military officer who took ship security very seriously, especially with so many civilians aboard. Jake nodded to his senior staff and was about to order the morning status reports when Lisa's console suddenly came alive with blinking lights and warning sounds. She quickly adjusted her headset and began working her controls with practiced skill. Captain, I'm detecting something on long-range sensors, Lisa announced, her voice carrying a note of excitement mixed with concern. It's big, very big, and it's moving toward our position at incredible speed. Ryan immediately began checking his sensor displays, while Amanda activated the ship's defensive systems. Jake moved to the center of the bridge and watched the main view screen switch from the starfield to a tactical display showing their immediate area of space. "Can you identify what it is, Lisa?" Jake asked, keeping his voice calm despite the sudden surge of adrenaline in his chest. Lisa worked frantically at her console, trying to make sense of the readings flooding her instruments. "The signature is unlike anything in our databases. Captain, whatever it is, it's definitely not human technology. The energy output readings are off the charts, and the size estimate suggests something at least 10 times larger than our ship." Amanda's hands moved quickly across her tactical controls as she prepared the Horizon's edge for potential combat. "Defensive systems are online, Captain. All weapon systems are charged and ready. Should I sound general quarters?" Jake considered the situation carefully. They were alone in deep space, months away from any possible help from Earth. If this unknown contact proved hostile, they would have to handle the situation themselves. But he also knew that their first responsibility was to the 2,000 colonists sleeping peacefully in the ship's residential sections. "Not yet, Amanda," Jake decided. "Let's see what we're dealing with first. Lisa, keep trying to establish communication. Ryan, I want maximum power to shields and engines, but keep weapons powered down for now. We don't want to appear threatening." The mysterious contact continued approaching their position at a speed that should have been impossible according to human understanding of physics. As it drew closer, the sensors began providing more detailed information about its incredible size and unusual energy patterns. Lisa suddenly straightened in her chair, pressing her headset against her ear with both hands. "Captain, I'm receiving a transmission. It's coming through on multiple frequencies simultaneously, and the signal is incredibly strong." "Put it through the main speakers," Jake ordered, gesturing. For his crew to remain quiet, the bridge speakers crackled to life, and a voice filled the air around them. The voice was clearly female, with a musical quality that seemed to resonate in harmonious tones. But what shocked everyone was that the voice spoke in perfect English, with no trace of any accent they could identify. "Greetings, humans of Earth," the voice said, each word precisely pronounced and filled with an otherworldly dignity. "I am Princess Zerlin of the Ethereal Dominion. We have observed your vessel and your species with great interest. By the ancient laws of our people, I must request formal audience with your strongest warrior." Jake felt his heart pounding as he realized they were experiencing humanity's first contact with an alien intelligence. Everything about this moment would be remembered and studied for generations to come. He had to handle the situation perfectly. Lisa looked at Jake with wide eyes, waiting for instructions on how to respond. Ryan had stopped working at his console and was staring at the speakers as if he could see the alien princess through them. Amanda kept her hands near her weapon controls, but looked to Jake for guidance. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Horizon's Edge," Jake replied, speaking clearly toward the communications pickup. "We greet you in peace, Princess Zarlin. We will be honored to meet with you and discuss our mission." There was a brief pause before the alien princess responded. "Captain Morrison, your response indicates wisdom and courtesy. However, I must clarify my request. Our ancient protocols require that I meet with your strongest warrior, not necessarily your leader. In our observations of human behavior, we have noted that your species often separates these roles." Jake considered this unexpected complication. Among the colonists were several former military personnel and security officers who might technically be considered stronger warriors than himself. But as captain, he was ultimately responsible for the safety of everyone aboard his ship. "Princes Zarlin, I am the commander of this vessel and responsible for the lives of 2,000 colonists," Jake responded. "Whatever strength you seek, I believe it is my duty to represent my people in this historic meeting." Another pause followed, and Jake imagined the alien princess considering his words. When she spoke again, There seemed to be approval in her musical voice. Your willingness to place duty above personal safety demonstrates the quality we have observed in your species, Captain Morrison. I accept your offer to serve as humanity's representative. Prepare your vessel to receive me. I will transport to your ship within one of your time periods called minutes. The communication ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Jake looked around at his senior staff, seeing his own mixture of excitement and nervousness reflected in their faces. They were about to make history, but they had no idea what they were getting themselves into. Lisa broke the silence first. Captain, should I alert the colonists about what's happening? Jake shook his head. Not yet. Let's see what Princess Zarlin wants before we cause a panic among 2,000 people. Ryan, run a full diagnostic on all our systems. I want to. Know we can trust our equipment during this meeting. Amanda, maintain defensive readiness, but keep all weapons powered down unless I give specific orders. As his crew carried out their assignments, Jake tried to prepare himself mentally for humanity's first face-to-face encounter with an alien intelligence. He had no idea what Princess Verilyn would look like, or what she truly wanted from them. All he knew was that the next few minutes would change everything for the human race.